episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We're here to talk about a little bit of March Madness, a little bit of NFL news, and a little bit of some more prospect reviews. We're going over our top 5 corners in the upcoming NFL draft class today. But before we get into what should be another great episode, Matt, Theo, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon?
I'm doing well. It's been nice to have college basketball on constantly. And of course, these March Madness games are always pretty good. A lot of tightly contested, competitive games with a lot of emotion. So
Yes.
if my corner rankings are janky, it's because I've had those on during work. And maybe I was watching a little 12-2 run by some team and maybe missed some important reps from some prospect as everybody else does at school and work. So if the corners if the corners bust that I say are good, it's blame Oregon versus Creighton. And Matt, you're muted.
Yeah, you're right. My fault. Oregon, or not Oregon, NC State, Oakland was a classic. I really loved that game. I really loved the players in the game.
Yes.
I know it's corny to say, but it's a shame that one of them has to get eliminated, dude. I love DJ Byrne so much. He is so nice. He's filthy.
He's not nice at all, man. Get that man in with his hand in the dirt.
Oh my god!
Dude, no, man. That technique, guy is a freak in the paint. He can pass like crazy. And then I love Golke too. Like he's getting all the hype, and it's like we do this. Like is it really like, dude? I don't know. Something about the way that he comes off of screens, where like he's the movement shooter stuff. He's gonna dribble once the entire game, and all that. But when he comes off of those screens, he's running full speed. He'll like leave his legs behind. When he shoots, they're like flowing behind. That just kills me. And the fact that he hasn't taken double-digit twos all season, and
he's taken
2.1 in January. It's like, that's awesome.
He had one shot from the elbow, and that was like the only 2-point jumper that I think he's taken all year. But he's a legend in my eyes, though, because I had Oakland money line versus Kentucky. Which was awesome. I think I'm going to break even overall despite winning a bunch of money on that. But at least I had some fun.
The Stay Hot bracket is in shambles right now because we picked Auburn.
Yeah, and we did.
You picked Auburn, you mean?
What do you mean?
What did I have to do any of this?
Why am I getting the blame for this? What?
At the end of the day, you were the one. You were the one.
Yeah, I had control, I suppose. It's all my fault.
Don't go
but
back.
I got the chance to watch Caitlin Clark, man. She's so good.
Yeah, she's nice.
She is ridiculous.
I'm excited for her to be in Indianapolis. I'll actually be able to go catch a Fever game reasonably.
I would like to go to the women's Final Four in Cleveland.
I think that would be crazy really for that. I just don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not. Let's go to the Super Bowl level of ask, but it's a pretty big ask.
But I mean, you could see South Carolina.
Yeah,
you could see South Carolina. You could see Caitlin. Like it would be huge, man.
Yeah, they'd probably be way more expensive than. I went to the WNBA finals in Phoenix a couple of years ago for $25, but I think women's college basketball is like way more of a draw, especially
that, and particularly Caitlin Clark. Yeah, Clark herself is a huge draw. And if I don't know how the bracket is, I think it could be Iowa, South Carolina in the Final Four if it gets to that, but not the championship game. Regardless, if that's the matchup you end up getting, it's going to be a psychotic, buy-in, right?
I watched a little bit of the South Carolina women's team today, and they were up 75-30, I believe, on North Carolina, and then I turned it off.
I think they've played like two single-digit. Like they've had like 2 single-digit wins all year. Everybody else had blown out by double.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man.
I'm looking right now. The cheapest Final Four tickets for the women's tournament is $387.
Yeah, especially buying it now that the tournament has already started. You're probably a bit late to the party there, so maybe you could sneak in.
But sneak in?
I don't got that in me.
Yeah,
that's true. It'd only
maybe
be a
it won't
2-hour
happen
trip for me.
But yeah, it's been a good tournament. My main bracket that I have in my family league, and then the TikTok creators league that I sent the link to a bunch of guys, it's doing pretty good. I had Baylor and UConn and Houston and Gonzaga in the Final Four. So we're pretty, like, we're not at the top or anything like that, but nothing too terrible has happened to me yet, pending obviously tonight's results by the time you listen to this podcast. So we'll see if that remains true for Houston and Baylor, who I don't think have played yet.
Hey, I'm ranked 11th in that group right now.
I'm not even gonna look. I'm sure it's not great for me. My bracket I filled out on paper with my buddies is pretty good, but I can't post
the cameras
that one
weren't
because,
on.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about this. It's like, I don't know. Was I talking with you guys or my friends who live with me? Like, what would happen if someone gets the perfect bracket and they filled it out on paper and they have no proof?
Probably nothing. I think they post it, and I think if you said, like, I swear to God, like, I filled this out for,
like, how heavily you insist. Like, if someone was like life or death, like they were serious, like, dude, I got it. I swear to God, I got it. I swear to God.
I mean, you could probably could you carbon date it maybe? Like,
they
I don't know if
have
I'd
some
believe
analyst
anybody.
somewhere would be like, I can figure out how long ago this was written by the ink or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could probably send it into
there's
like
some sort of way
a
to do that.
scientist to figure it out. But I think if some MF said, no matter how many people they swore on, I don't think any Twitter MF I would believe if they posted they got a perfect bracket, especially if your username, it would suck to fill it out on paper and then your username would be like, you know, like Tatum season 43, then everybody would be like, get the fuck out of here, dude. So you'd be extra screwed if you were like any kind of NBA Twitter account. Maybe you could get away with it if your account was like, you were like a botanist from like Vermont and had never tweeted about the NBA before in their life, and you were like, and you're 70 years old, and people might trust you, you know, if there's just no reason, like you're not a sports account. But if you have any affiliation with like sports whatsoever, I think everybody would call bullshit, including probably me if you just posted that.
But here's what would probably, not to stick on this too long, but what would probably happen is you would get like the first 2 rounds correct. You would post that. You'd be like, dude, I swear to God, in the picture, it's right.
True.
And hypothetically, in this world where you get it perfectly right, you could get it correct from there. That being said, if somebody wants to go for it, you could try that right now. You could make one up and just the entire.
You could.
That's doable. But you only get one chance at it, and no one will ever believe it again.
It's going to be tough when a bunch of Stay Hot listeners now all post that they have perfect brackets. There's going to be like 4 people that
just
giant
don't,
people will be like,
you can't tag us in it. But if someone does it, you can tag us in the replies, but if you post it, it
only works if you're like really believable with it. You can't post like, guys, I got the perfect bracket with like an exclamation mark and like a smiley face emoji. It's like, dude, that's not.
Yeah, you can lie though. Like you could totally say I've still got one. Like look at this on paper. You could even Photoshop it if you really wanted to. There's really no reason not to lie. Like
just lie.
You can just do it and just watch the replies roll in and be the main character on Twitter for a day.
And even if no one believes you, you'll get crazy engagement, and
it would spice up your life. So I think you know, if you've got nothing better to do, I think that lying about getting a perfect bracket could actually be
if you're like bored at work
viable.
Or something, just send out that tweet and it'll probably do numbers. We'll retweet it. So
this just reminds me of a story in my life, and so you can fast forward if my personal life seems boring to you. But my girlfriend is a teacher, and they had a contest where kids voted at school on what teacher would get a pie thrown in their face by one of the students, and she was stressing because she's like, what if we draw the name, and they're going to draw the name of someone out of this bucket, and they would get to throw the pie at him. And she's like, what if one of the kids that like might, some of these boys don't really have control over, how hard they might throw. They might get a little carried away in chaos. And I'm like, just rig the election, dude. Like, take all the names of people you don't want out of it. And just
rig the election.
It's kids, right? You can just lie to them, right? You don't even have to. You could have it all be one name. Like, it's just little kids, and it's kind of the same deal on Twitter.
Rig the election in this year is a crazy thing to say.
I like that. That's what I would do.
You can just lie, right?
Okay. Well, think about that on like a smaller scale, though. It's like, what if you had like one kid who was just like totally insane, and like you knew, dude was gonna go, Josh Allen that shit. I'm just taking his name alone out. If you did that, nobody would blame you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's just that on a bigger scale. I think I agree.
It is. It's like sometimes lying is harmless. So especially if you are a sports Twitter account, because then there's just no way that anybody takes you actually that seriously, and it would just kind of be funny. I think I endorse lying about it at this point. At the very end, I don't endorse it because that's too severe.
Honestly,
but doing it at this point in the bracket,
tweet that out right now, and then before we post the episode, and then when the episode comes out, everyone will be like, "Oh, I'm
honestly like super super tempted to." I think it'd be really funny. But like I only like kind of insist. I'm not like freaking out. I'm just sort of like, yeah, no, I've got it.
I swear on my cat that this is a bracket. That's not really. Is that really big enough to swear on? I swear on my first grade art teacher. It's like, well, is that really?
Matt, we need a video on corporate spawn hour.
How much is he really putting on the line here emotionally with who he's swearing on?
Video on corporate spawn hour, guys.
That's kind of a red flag.
Perfect bracket.
I might do that. I think I'm going to make a TikTok about getting a perfect bracket later. But we should get into some football. Football.
Theo, you wanted to talk about the Titans a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I do as well. I think they're very interesting.
They are very interesting. They started the offseason with one of the worst cornerback rooms in the NFL, and they've had that for kind of the past few years. Signed Awuzie, which Bengals fans, are kind of less enamored with him recently, but I think he's a guy worth taking a shot on just because they've been so bad. Right, he's good when he's healthy. It's just like, can he stay healthy? I think it's a shot worth taking if you're Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they just brought in. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Snead.
Yeah, legit. Yeah, they brought in Snead.
Yeah,
so,
you and Adam Schefter both. Adam Schefter made like 8 tweets about it and spelled his last name Snead like every time.
Yeah. It's like I looked it up because I was like, I know I'm gonna spell this wrong if I don't. But yeah, so I don't know. I like the idea that they're at least taking shots at the cornerback position because they have been so bad at it recently.
I don't think their offseason has been that great.
Yeah, I think it's been fine because
it's fine. I can see some of it. Like, here's the thing. The Snead move isn't like a disaster. It's not like a huge negative or anything. Mm-hmm. But I do disagree with the process on a large scale if you take a step back. In like itself, okay, Snead is a good player. You gave him a big contract, but all right, but he's not like, the top at his position, and giving up draft capital to go pay guys is not a good way to build out a team, really. Right. Mm-hmm. It's more of like a final move. If you're a team that's contending and just needs one more cornerback, like an Eagles level team, this would be a little bit different. Or it's like, if you're getting like a true honest to God superstar that you can't just find, like Miami getting Tyreek Hill. There just isn't another Tyreek Hill, or at least not one that's available. Or AJ Brown, I would even say, is in that tier 1 at his position, and that's a little bit different. And obviously, both those moves were incredibly, a big time for both those teams and made them way more serious. Snead and the Titans just don't fall into either of those two categories. And again, like, I hesitate to be like, that's a disaster, because it's not a disaster. It's only a little bad. I give this move like a 4 out of 10. I think he'll probably play good ball for them. They needed a cornerback. But I also think, I wonder if in a couple years we look at the Titans and say they're giving a lot of money to their top guys, and their top guys are just not that good. They're just not like the amazing superstars. And again, it all is really going to come down for them long term whether or not they draft good. Right? Like, for every team I know.
That's why they're in the problem that they're in now, is because they haven't drafted well in the past. They wouldn't have needed to go out and got Awuzie or Snead if they had just drafted good corners like 2 years ago.
Right. So,
right.
It really just comes down to that. But I feel like making this trade, you've taken an opportunity off the board for yourself. And again, it's not the end of the world. But you paid Snead like a very big contract, and then you gave up the picks. I just think it's like, for a team in their position, I think it's a little like, I think the process is a little bad. The counterpoint to all of that would be they do literally have to spend money. They have to spend money. They don't have, and that's where I sort of start to have mixed feelings. They have to spend money, so maybe it was better to trade for somebody who you know is a solid player, so you don't go spend that money on someone who stinks, right? Like, you might as well make sure that you're at least using that cash on somebody who's solid. Yeah, I think that has some value. The problem is that if we look at all of their moves through that lens, then we can excuse pretty much anything. And I think overall right now, their free agency moves have been like a 4 out of 10, like a 5 out of 10. They're solid. They're good. I think they're going to have a better team and better players than they did last year. So that's dope. But I also think they're really big contracts to guys who aren't top tier at their position. And I don't think that's long-term an awesome thing. Mostly comes down to how they draft, though. So I'm not like super out on the Titans long-term.
Yeah. It's not probably going to make a huge impact on the direction of the league or anything like that. It doesn't vault the Titans into different kinds of conversations for me yet. That'll come down to how they draft and how Will Levis develops.
Yeah.
But I think it's fine to give out these contracts this offseason just because they have drafted so poorly in the past that they basically have no up-and-coming talent that is due for a big extension here in the next couple years. Yep. And if they draft well now, by the time that starts to happen and whatever young talent they end up acquiring like hits the point where an extension is in order, at that point, these contracts will kind of run its course, I believe. Like, that's where I am at with these Titans move. It's like, you can't do this every year. And then they'll just start to all, you'll end up in a Saints type of situation where you've just given too much money to bad players for too long. If you're taking the shot this year and just kind of throwing shit at the wall, I think it's fine to do this season because they had tons of money. They have no real young talent coming up that they need to give a big contract to in the near future. So, yeah, they do have to spend money, and they did. And if Levis hits and they draft someone really good at number 7, like, who knows? Like, maybe they could contend all of a sudden. It's not like the rest of the roster is like embarrassingly bad, weighing down a good young core. Like, you're kind of putting yourself in a position where if the quarterback hits, and I don't know if you really
kill the draft, you've got a couple of positions
figured
out. I see it.
You do.
Really kill it. It's like 8 wins. Yeah,
I don't know though. It's like it's a lot of mid. It's a lot of mid moves. Like, if a contender made the Ridley deal, I'd be like, this is going to limit your.
The Pollard deal, I just think is straight up.
The Pollard deal, I don't quite understand either.
I don't know. I think if you look at the team in a vacuum and you're like, well, if Levis takes a step, you have Pollard and Spears, which isn't a horrible running back duo. Ridley, Hopkins. I mean, it's not great, but it's not awful.
We get on if number 6, it's over.
If I don't know. I just don't know about the Titans. They're not building something that moves me, but I don't really think not doing anything this offseason would have like made their outlook better. And they just have so much long-term flexibility because there are no proven good players around that it's kind of okay that you are like burning money on like kind of established free agents. And if you get good talent, I don't think these moves will prevent you from paying them in the future. So I think it's fine, but it's also not like
It's
to
fine.
kill the offseason. It's going to happen.
It's not like a genius win or a genius loss. And really, honestly, like that move made me start to think that maybe we need to look at moves on like a 1 out of 10 scale or a letter grade scale more than we look at it as like a yes or a no. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, it exists in like it's like a 3-star move. We need a letterboxed.
It's like, okay, you look at you. I like that.
For NFL move.
You look at a trade like Snead and you say, okay, it's a good move if I would have done it. It's a bad move if I wouldn't have done it, right? But I think with something like this, or that's how you judge a lot of moves, but I think with something like this, it's almost like, I'd love to know what their other options were, right? If this was the best thing on their table, like, yeah, doing this is better than, I don't know what else you could do. I mean, who else you could go pay, you know? At this point, it seems like we're starting to get down to it as far as the free agency class goes. And they still have a lot of money to spend. I guess you have a lot. It's what you have to spend like 89% of your salary cap over a 4-year period. So it doesn't have to happen all at once. You don't get like, you don't need to spend 89% every single year, but your average must come out to like 89% over 4. So I don't think they're going to like have to spend every last dollar. But they certainly couldn't be, you know, like 100 million under wherever they were. I don't think it was that
what do you think about it from a Chiefs perspective?
I think it's like a tough reality. I mean, just let's pay everybody. Here's the thing. It's like the 3rd round pick will probably not be as good as Snead. Just odds on. And Snead was a really good player. So you look at this move and you say, oh, it sucks. And you'll probably end up being like right, if that's your take, but they had to do it, right? You can't pay everybody. And I hate to say it.
What were we saying about the Chris Jones stuff? We were willing to let Snead go.
Keeping Jones and letting Snead go was the play. That was the right call. I'm glad they did it. And if they want to keep this thing going, it's not just going to be like, well, we get all these guys in place one time and then we just pay all of them somehow forever. And we keep the exact same roster for 5 years straight. And we win. Like, that's just not how it's going to be, bro. You're going to have to keep hitting on draft picks. Now you got a new need. Can you go address it? They've got the capital to do it. And as far as like a 3rd and a 7th round pick goes, it seems probably about right to me. I guess maybe I would have guessed a 2nd round pick if you made me. And this is a little under that, I suppose, but at the end of the day, I can't accurately tell you how much the Chiefs getting a 3rd round pick was them negotiating poorly versus that just being the market and a Snead trade. We have no idea about that type of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And I think it would be ignorant for us to sit here and criticize, you know, a team that has won 3 Super Bowls now in the last, 6-7 years, and say, oh, they did that so wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and they've got the Creed Humphrey extension coming up the pipe. They have the Nick Bolton extension coming up the pipe, and I guess maybe that might be the choice that they had to make, is like, which one of these guys can we keep, Snead or Bolton? And I think I agree with keeping Bolton, the linebacker. You've got McDuffie kind of flourishing and looking like an all-pro type of player. Like,
you can't find linebackers, dude. I know they're not like. I know they're not like. Here's the thing. It's like Chiefs lose a corner. I'm like, all right, pretty good corner class. There's like, we're about to talk about them. They're pretty good, man. A lot of these guys are really good. It's tough to have somebody at 5. Let's see what Kansas City can do. Talk about linebacker. It's like, there's one guy and he weighs 235 pounds and he's 24 and injury prone. It's like, dude, I just think it's impossible to find. Right. It's not the most important position, but I'd rather be trying to find a corner than a linebacker. Maybe that's a stupid way to look at it. I'd rather be trying to find a linebacker. And
I mean, in our mock draft,
and it kind of is. And again, I think like it is. You look at the teams in the Final Four; it's like they kind of prioritize linebacker, And Campbell was kind of coming on by the end. Queen was a 1st-round pick. Roquan was traded and given a huge extension. Bolton obviously was there, and what team am I missing? Warner of course, Warner and Greenlaw, the best two,
the best duo in the league.
Yeah, we're there.
And you look at our mock draft, we took 6 corners, 0 linebackers in the 1st round. That's not because linebackers aren't important. It's because
supply and demand.
Right. It's just like there just isn't,
or really
like
just
a guy,
supply in this case.
Yeah, there isn't a guy there that we saw as like first round caliber, and I would imagine that if you're trying to keep Bolton around, the Chiefs probably think the same thing.
Yeah, so I think that from a Chiefs perspective, it's a tough reality. From a Titans perspective, I do think that getting Snead, and he's the 6th highest paid corner, and you gave up a 3rd round pick for him, I think that that's going to be fine for them. Like, you got a good player. Like, at the end of the day, how it happens doesn't really matter. And I think we can grade it poorly for teams that didn't make the Snead move, that like maybe really could have used him.
Ooh, I like that. I think that's a good way to look at it.
That's not a bad...
You know, like, why did he end up on the Titans? Why did the Titans win this bidding war instead of, like you said, Matt, like a contender who could use just one more piece in the secondary? I'm trying to think of who that might be. The Lions, maybe the Eagles. I think both of those.
The Lions are a really good one.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic point. However,
those to me are like the biggest
Chiefs
losers.
Nah. I was going to say it's maybe possible the Chiefs are worried about giving him to like a contender, but I think it's like, dude, you got to trade him to somebody. You'd be taking a lot of teams, like, because we're scared we might play him in the Super Bowl, I guess.
Yeah. And if you're that scared about playing him in the Super Bowl, don't let him go. You know, if you think he's going to make that big of an impact on that stage, and you know, it would get countered by the fact that like the Lions maybe are more desperate for this type of talent and could potentially outbid the Titans, right? So,
yeah,
I think that that was the weirdest part to me about the Snead trade, is that he ended up in Tennessee.
Snead maybe had some say in where he went.
I don't think so.
I bet you he would a little bit. If
why wouldn't he want to go to a bigger contender though? Like, he'd be the first player in history to ever demand a trade to the Tennessee Titans. There is no way he is from Nashville or anything like that.
Hey,
no,
there's no way he had a say in where he goes, and
he is from.
Like, I need to work with Callahan.
I can't say that I know. But he's won his titles. Maybe the Titans were offering him the biggest amount of money.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's probably what happened. Is maybe the Titans were offering him more money than everybody else because they had to spend, and Snead can tell teams like, you can trade for me, but I ain't signing with you, and I'm not risking a 2nd round pick on that for 1 year of Snead.
Yeah.
So that would be my guess. And then that gives the Chiefs a lot less leverage. And honestly, that makes the trade itself seem a little better for them.
Yeah, it's whatever for all parties. I think it's not necessarily a league shaping move or anything like that. But it's certainly interesting, and what the Titans are building this offseason and their philosophy to spend so much money is interesting. I also think when Vrabel was there, he probably would have cautioned against all this reckless spending, and maybe that's one of the philosophical differences that caused them to shockingly part ways earlier this offseason. Like, maybe ownership was like, I want to make moves and we want to get better quickly, and Vrabel was like, we need to build it out a certain way, and my guys, and I don't know. I thought that was another takeaway that I had from this Titans
very possible
offseason, is like, maybe this had something to do with this philosophy of spending, had something to do with Vrabel leaving. So that's, I think, a pretty encompassing talk about that move. Not too much else has happened.
No, not
Mike
really.
Williams went to the Jets, which I liked. We were talking about maybe them being the T. Higgins team. This is kind of that for cents on the dollar.
Significantly less than T. Higgins.
You're. I mean, who knows how many games you'll get out of Mike Williams? But I thought it was good that their wide receiver 2 is Brownlee, so to get Williams, who's at least really good at something to like fill in that spot. And
I'll just say, this is total speculation, but I mean, he's 30 coming off an ACL tear.
Yeah.
I'm not. The history of that is bad, even for guys who are really good. And then on top of that, there's the fact that he himself is injury prone. It just feels like for this Jets offense, like on paper, it can be good. But here's what you need: if the offensive line stays healthy, which it's incredibly injury prone, and if Mike Williams stays healthy, and if Aaron Rodgers comes back from an Achilles tear at 40 and plays, it's not sounding good. Not sounding very good at all, right? So
no. I still do like. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what they do at number 10 in the draft. I still think wide receiver is good. I know there's a ton of ifs. I know the injury concerns are like blatantly obvious, but
Speaking
I
of the
am
Jets
sold
at number
on
10 in the
paper
draft,
again. But
everyone got mad that I took Cooper DeJean at 10.
We'll talk about Cooper DeJean on this podcast. I've looked at him more. Yeah, But anyway, I'll save that for the Cooper DeJean section. But
I guess just the corner section, which we can get into that. I mean, if there's not a whole lot else to.
I just wanted to make a joke about how Mike Williams would take drugs with Rodgers and it would instantly make him not injury prone. But we're kind of moved past that point where it's really a effective singer. So we can move on.
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions over at Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below the waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our official offer. Go over to manscaped.com and use the code STAYHOT, all caps, all one word, for 20% off plus free shipping. Because after I've started using Manscaped, I can say I have finally caught the spring fever. And of course, you hate making a mess. That's why they made this boy waterproof. Shave in the shower, in the bath, or even, if you really want to, in the ocean. So once again, go and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code STAYHOT. Again, that's all caps, all one word, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping for the best below the waist grooming in the world with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA Flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
All right, well, let's get in our top 5 corners in the upcoming NFL draft class. We'll start the same way we've done it the whole time we've been doing these prospect rankings. Start at 1, go to 5.
Well, first of all, let's settle into this. How do you feel about the top 5? You think it's a good? I think
it's a pretty good class. You've got you've got a nice group of high level athletes.
It's fun. I think
we took 6 corners in our mock draft. All right,
we did. I was thinking. I don't think it's quite as good as. I was trying to compare it to the edge class and like what class I think is better between the corners and the edges. And I think it's kind of close, but I think I lean edges slightly.
Latu is probably a better edge than
the best corner.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess this conversation doesn't really. People came to listen to the top 5. I'll just let's just do the top 5.
All right. Who do you guys have at number 1?
I have Nate Wiggins.
Interesting. Matt?
The Wiggins off-season draft cycle has been bizarre. Showing up at the combine, 170 pounds to run in the 4.2s.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So just a little bizarre, it's like, okay, I guess.
And then he immediately got hurt. So he ran this 4.2 and everybody was like, I don't know.
At 170,
seemed like no one cared.
But then he put all the weight back on very quickly, and like he's fast. Like I just don't know. Personally, I wouldn't mess with my weight that much. Maybe I'm not getting drafted and getting millions of dollars. I don't know. I feel like it would take a lot out of you to drop all that and then put it back on. And like you said,
Yeah.
Did he put it back on?
Sucks. He weighed like 10 pounds heavier just pro day.
Okay.
Which is
that
good,
is
but like
significant.
still light, you know.
He is a little thin when you watch him on tape. He's definitely not as built as some of these other guys, but he's very, very fast and he's very, very fluid. And I think that his athleticism is in a different tier than everybody else that I watched. And he was my favorite last draft cycle when I was watching some of these wide receivers go up against, like, man, who is that guy on Clemson? Nate Way, he just keeps making plays. And a lot of the times when that's kind of my initial reaction, those guys end up being good. And I'm kind of going back to that, where even before he was a prospect, he was flashing to me. And I think that when you watch him flip his hips and when you watch him, his recovery speed, and when you watch him in trail technique, he has that easy speed. And he's not afraid to get a little physical over the course of a rep, even though he is thin. I don't think he gets pushed around like too much. Maybe he's not as stout as some guys, but for a guy he's no Forbes for a guy, his weight. He's not even close to, like, I don't think he's going to get pushed around like Forbes did at all. So I like that about him.
Right. His technique is also much better than Forbes. That's the other thing. And that matters a lot too.
I just, with Wiggins, what I wrote down is my big thought, and he's my number one as well.
Okay, good. Epic.
You're just asking a lot from a receiver to beat him. That just seems like, oh my God. I mean, even if you do cook him, and again, that physicality that he has is huge, but the recovery speed is insane. Getting him down the field is impossible, man, because he's going to catch back up, and he doesn't get beat often, man. And his speed just gives him such an ability to make plays. I'm an absolutely huge fan of him. I've been singing his praises. Well, we've been talking about him for a while on the pod, it feels like.
Yeah.
He is.
And I 100% agree. I was thinking, it's like all these guys are pretty good, but I think Wiggins is the guy who's just is more apparently that dude and totally locked down, and the skill set is complete. And am I going to put another one of these guys over him because maybe, like, I feel like they're a better athlete? No, I don't.
But they're not, though. It's like he did run a 4.2. Like
he did run a 4.2, even at 170. That's just nuts.
Like, he's so fast as shit. And
really what I thought myself, I was like, I saw him weigh at 170. I'm like, well, hold on, wait, maybe the physicality won't be there in the pro. And then he goes at the pro day and weighs 180. It's like, maybe this was all just like 40-time nonsense, which is what I think it was. And I'm just gonna trust the tape on this one that he's just in a different class of player.
That's yeah. I like Wiggins a lot, and I like most of the corners in this class a lot, but I still lean Cooper DeJean as my number one, just because I think his technique, especially in zone, is so pristine. And dude. I just don't like, to me, it's a lot like Latu, where he's not quite as twitchy or bursty as some of these other corners, but he just knows where to be. And I think that ultimately is just going to make him really easy to find success in the NFL. Because Sherman was never like some crazy athlete at corner either, but he was like the best cover three, like just best cover three corner in the league, and he had great length and size, and DeJean's kind of a lot like that too.
I have a take on DeJean that is shocking, considering how we've talked about him. The more I watched him, the less I liked him. And he's not in my list. He's not on my list at all.
At all?
I got more and more concerned about the athleticism. I got more and more concerned that he's just not fluid enough. He plays a little bit like I see the position change murmurs the more that I watch, where I just feel like he gets stacked when he flips his hips to like run down the field. He can kind of catch up, but if like someone is to settle down real quick. He'll go like flying past them. I think like changing direction, defending something like that, if he's going to stop it, it's going to be because of physicality. And I think he brings almost like a linebacker mentality to
I
the
like
corner
that.
position.
That's great.
But I think like there's aspects of it that's good. Like I like his tackling. I like the way he takes on blocks. Like that's all way better than Wiggins, who's like not that good at. He's thin. He's not going to be.
Well, the combine would tell us that DeJean has 40 pounds on Nate Wiggins. So how much you'd like to believe that, I don't know, but it's a pretty big size difference. Absolutely,
it is. Yeah. It is, and I thought like his technique wasn't quite as good as I thought it. I thought it was. I think in zone we kind of hand waved it when we watched him, but if he's that cover 3 guy and someone runs a comeback, it kind of takes him a while to close on it. And I think he gives it a lot of space. And there were times where I saw him in the deep half or playing these deep zones and like fully with his back turned. And I thought he just kind of gave some of these things way too much breathing room. And I don't know. I just didn't quite see a boundary corner skill set the more I watched him. And I thought he just didn't quite fit. And I just wasn't quite comfortable with him. And then you start to tinker like, do I want him in the slot? Do I want him at safety? Do I want him like as a weird hybrid linebacker type? And am not.
Here's the thing.
I don't know what to do with him.
I can think of someone else that got a lot of the same criticisms for not being fast enough, for not being athletic enough. It was Kyle Hamilton. They said, oh, he's not going to be able to play sideline to sideline. He's not going to be able to come downhill and make plays quickly. And in the NFL, he's the first guy at the ball almost every time. I think ultimately DeJean has the instincts to play at a high level, and I think he's versatile enough to, if you want to move him in the slot, you could. If you want to put him deep safety, you could. But, I mean, I think he could play some boundary corner for you. I think he's got the skill set to. Again, when a lot of times when we watched him in cover 3, and from what I've seen, he plays a lot towards that number 2. Right. So when they do run these like comebacks from the number 1 receiver, a lot of times he's not going to be there because he's so far, like he's playing that vertical inside, and then he's like if someone goes vertical outside, he can speed turn and get back out.
Yeah.
But
so that's like not great technique though, like it's a guy, I don't know. The more I watched him,
they just don't really give him help outside.
I started with 2022 versus Ohio State, and he got hooked in that game. Ohio State killed him, really. He had one nice PBU on JSN, who was running like a slot fade, and he was able to hang with him, but he allowed like a 70-yard touchdown on a post. Marvin should have cooked him on a whip route, but I think Stroud missed the throw. And just in general, like I just wasn't really seeing much positive impact from him. And then it's like, well, let's go to 2023. And I watched him versus Penn State, and that was like, yeah, I'm seeing some of the same things here. And there was a time where someone ran a double move on him, and he was like so cooked that he just blew him up. Like he just like decked him, and he went out of bounds. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want tough. I don't want the corner equivalent of tough Borland, and I don't want
Borland's Dre is unbelievable.
That is insane.
And Matt, you said with college basketball in this tournament, like it's for showcasing some of the cool archetypes that won't quite translate to the NBA. Like that's what you see in some of these college basketball games, and that's kind of what I thought of when I saw DeJean. I'm like, he's a cool archetype in college, but I just don't know if he'll be the white corner that is great at the NFL level. I just don't. I do think that there are some limitations with the athleticism that scared me to move him not only out of the number 1 spot and then versus Wisconsin too. He got stacked, and there was that big catch on him earlier when we were like, well, he's kind of tight at the point of attack, and it was a really good throw, but it's like, well, there's a reason maybe that they were going after him in that situation, and he did get stacked. And I just in general was like, I'm just not as sold as I was early in this process, and I don't know.
I guess that's I'm not gonna try and change your mind, Theo. I remember the same things were said about Kyle Hamilton.
But I loved Kyle Hamilton.
I know you did. I know you did. I know you weren't out on Hamilton. I think Hamilton was still number 1 on your board. But I don't know. I think that's just a risky. I think he's got all the skills, but the athleticism.
I could see it. I could see maybe I'm just not thinking big enough because they really didn't move him around DeJean like that much. Like he wasn't over at safety and nickel, and maybe he would be way better if you.
But Iowa didn't need to because they had guys that were balling everywhere on that defense, so they didn't really need to move him so much.
But anyway,
we'll probably be talking about.
It's an interesting one. I have mixed feelings about him. I think on the one hand, I guess what you ask yourself is like, are we saying he's more of like a zone, more of like a safety type guy because he's so amazing as a safety, or is it because there's something he cannot do as an outside?
To me, I just think there are things he cannot do.
To me, it definitely seems like he does better when things are in front of him, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you give him the linebacker comparison, right? He does better when what he's trying to do is, in front of him and not behind him, or not necessarily getting on him.
And when he can get hands on and like, if I see reps of him winning in man coverage, it's probably because he is like, he's jamming somebody, or he's down the field, like getting hands on and they're falling down. He's like pancaking them. He's got a lot of play strength and that could help him in coverage, but it's just the fluidity aspect of it. And he returns punts. That's kind of the weird thing. Maybe I need to watch all his punt returns, and
he's kind of he's just so interesting though. He's just so interesting that I would spend a first round pick on him.
But he does not line up and press man a lot.
And he was awesome in track and like set records, and they let him return punts. I
worry about the Isaiah Simmons-ification of that.
That's so he's either going to be Hamilton or Simmons,
but in a completely different body, like in a corner. I can't really think of a comp for him, so we're kind of in uncharted waters.
That's what I'm saying. Like I went. We've gone to Sherman, Kyle Hamilton, Simmons. We'll throw because he returns punts. We'll throw Jabril Peppers in there too.
I don't even have a comp for him, man. He's a white corner. He's a unicorn. I don't know what if someone else who's a smarter coach than me, Blaiden, maybe you're seeing something that's like some hidden role for him that. Or maybe you just think he could survive on the outside.
I just think he can survive. I just think he has.
I don't think that he does. It was a very sad realization because I wanted to like him so much.
Not in the top 5 at all is crazy to me. I think that's a little crazy.
There's just guys that I think can, and I just
cop out and say he's just not a corner. And you have him at safety. And then
have him as your safety one.
No, he's football player 1. He's just not corner 1.
He's guy I would let my daughter bring home 1.
Well, yeah. Well, I heard such a bad like white guy slick. Like I heard such a. From on the March Madness broadcast, I was working and I heard it behind me, and they're like literally hitting all the boxes. I think they said like lunch pail, like does all the dirty work.
I can't believe anyone
not the most athletic.
You might as well. I mean,
I'm pretty sure I heard it about. I think it was NC State's power forward who was kind of going off in the first round matchup.
Oh my god!
Maybe I'm wrong on who it was, but I was facing the laptop and I heard the announcer saying every single thing you say about a white guy behind me. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to turn around and see. And it's like,
that's fair.
It was not shocking, but anyway, so you have Cooper DeJean number 1. Me and Matt are on the Wiggins train.
I have Wiggins at 2. I do love Wiggins.
Who do you have at 2, Matt?
I have, and this is the same logic with my Wiggins. I have Kool-Aid McKinstry at number 2, baby.
I have Kool-Aid too.
Yep.
Kool-Aid has been massively slept on.
I could just kiss you, Matt, that we have the same top.
And here's the thing, bro.
I'm clipping that, by the way.
I'm clipping that. I'm showing everyone. Don't.
TikTok will eat this up before it gets banned.
Anyway, yeah, Kool-Aid is my number 2 as well. Fuck it. he just never gets targeted, man.
Because he's good, bro. Oh, but this other guy, he's so athletic. You have to. Nope. That's combine bullshit, bro. Get that out of my face, man. He's so slow. What he run is pretty like a 4.46 or something. Stop. Not everybody needs to run in the 4.3. When did 4.4 speed become slow? What are we doing?
Here's the thing about Kool-Aid. I don't think he is that fast. I don't think that he's a crazy burner, but he's fluid and like he's smart. And it's like if he's one-on-one against someone crazy fast, I could see him getting burned. But he's got so many other nice traits that I think the top speed aspect of it will be okay. And he did run a good 40, so it's like maybe he's. But I agree. Like the athlete stuff, like I think he's better than Quinion. I think he's safer than Quinion Mitchell. That would be, I guess, the guy, right? Like he tested better. He's a better athlete, but he played at Toledo, dog, and
dude, what
he's and Kool-Aid
doing
locked down as a freshman as the SEC. It's like it's just not quite the same level of comfort that I have, you know.
I honestly, and this is going to be such an annoying comparison, it honestly kind of reminded me of some of the Sauce concerns where it's like the long speed isn't great. And Kool-Aid is not Sauce. I would never say that. Nobody's Sauce. But like he's fluid enough and his technique is good enough and he's gone up against fast guys and he just doesn't lose all the time. They just don't throw at him. And you can look at a guy like Arnold, or you can look at a guy like Mitchell, and you can say they're great athletes, right? They'd be great cornerback athletes even in the NFL. But they still get thrown at more. And that's in college, man. And honestly, if you have all that athleticism and you aren't like absolutely freaky lockdown, I know Mitchell and Arnold were pretty great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to turn this into me shitting on them. I'd rather talk about them. But like, I almost feel like sometimes with those guys, it's like you can lose it. Like, here's my fear with Mitchell. Mitchell is playing like an insane level of like, I'm just going to sit back and let these dudes come to me. And I'm just going to go attack. Like, dude, you're not going to have the same level of advantage in the NFL as you did against the Toledo guys. And I just feel like if that's your play style, like maybe you do what you know you need to do, and you turn that stuff on when you're not playing, you know, MAC competition or whatever. But I can't know. What I do know with Kool-Aid is he's playing the top tier guys. Maybe he doesn't have the top tier athleticism. He's playing the top tier guys, and he's already doing what we want him to do, what we need him to do. So yeah, I got Kool-Aid too.
His technique is awesome in press coverage. It's awesome, and they play him in press coverage all the time. Like he's constantly in man, like at the line of scrimmage. His footwork is great. I love the way he uses his hands. It's not all the time, but he can get hands on. He can crowd you towards the line of scrimmage. He's not small. He's not like the hugest corner like Sauces or anything like that, but he's not small. So he's got the physicality. I think that in zone coverage, he is a little bit of a gambler, I think, in zone coverage. And I feel like when he is in the deep, when he's playing any kind of zone, deep or shallow, and like there's a corner route, let's say, and he's the boundary guy, he'll kind of stay low a little bit and like almost dare the quarterback to throw it over him, and it just never really comes. And I feel like he's almost a little bit more boom or bust than is being talked about, because it's like there are some times where I watch Kool-Aid and I'm like, you know, the guy is kind of open on him, especially when guys take him vertical. I do think that there are some long speed concerns, like guys are stacking him, but the ball never comes his way. And then in these zone coverages, sometimes I feel like he's almost baiting the quarterback a little bit, like giving a little bit of extra space, and the ball never comes. So maybe in the NFL level, like they'll just start targeting him way more, and his reputation won't precede him, and there'll be more open space to complete passes. But I like his technique a lot, and I think he's smart, and I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he'll find a way to get it done. And there are lots of reps where he defends in breakers or some like severe breaking route and just is right in the hip pocket the whole time, even if they cross his face. So I like a lot of things about Kool-Aid. I see the athleticism concerns a little bit, but I don't think he's stiff like I think DeJean is. I think he's more fluid than that. And I was
about to say something.
Yeah, I think that he is a little bit more has that corner athleticism more than DeJean does. I think DeJean is more physical, but
I love
think
Kool-Aid. I think you guys are like spot on with the technique stuff. He is nails when it comes to it, and yeah, he's my number 3. So I mean, I'm just like basically a step behind you guys, it seems, except I have Cooper as 1.
Yeah.
So
I have Arnold at 3.
Okay. So yeah, we're basically just gonna go bar for bar at this point.
I have Mitchell at 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There we go.
I do like, I think Arnold and Mitchell are honestly like relatively similar tier. It was a tough one for me to pick.
I agree with that.
Because I think they're both super athletic, but they're not like both, super like lockdown, I guess. And I just liked the way that Mitchell moved a little bit more, I guess. I
do think that Mitchell's a better athlete.
I think Mitchell is I see this stuff with Arnold. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, again, with him getting out of his his breaks or trying to turn and make a play, like, he's fantastic, man. But I think Mitchell is maybe even a step quicker, and he's really fluid. I mean, it's something amazing, and it's going to give him a lot of cushion in the NFL. It gives him a lot of cushion in the MAC. It's just like, okay, well, this isn't even serious, It's like when you make a 99 overall Madden quarterback who's 7 feet tall, and then it's just like, all right, just whatever.
Yeah,
that's how Mitchell is for the most part. But I don't feel like I saw enough of like him like really just like going and locking down someone and like mirror and all that stuff, which is what I really want.
He's never impressed.
Off and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think
I'm way more
sometimes can be a little slow to react, right? And even
I agree. I agree.
And that reaction time. Here's the thing: it's like I feel like Mitchell in a different role. We'll see, right? I'm interested. We'll see. I don't take him with a first round pick. Like, he's really, really something special. Arnold, the reaction time, I feel like, is just not going to get better. I don't think it is.
I almost worry. I almost wonder if he just trusts his athleticism to like an insane degree. He's like, oh,
he's
I don't
not
really
that insane of an athlete. Like, he didn't blow up the combine or like do anything too crazy. I like Arnold because I think that he can play the press man coverage that you need him to play. But the farther away you move him from the bar, he's almost, I think they're in a similar tier, but they're kind of different players, where it's like Mitchell, I like an off man coverage because he breaks on everything super well. Yeah. Like, he sees everything in front of him. With Arnold, like, I think that the farther away he gets from the ball and you're asking him to like read things with a bunch of space, his decision making is kind of weird out there, and he relies a lot on speed turns, which I guess I also noted for Mitchell as well. Like, he'll fully like turn around and like change directions instead of flipping his hips. Like, both of them do that a decent amount. So I think
nothing wrong with that. If you're a good speed turn player,
I think closer to the ball, Arnold is better, and I can trust him in press man situations and in physical situations, like tackling a ball carrier. I don't know if Mitchell is totally proven in that area either. Yep. So I think Arnold is better closer to the ball, but once you move Arnold kind of farther away, I get a little bit concerned, and I don't think he's quite as freaky as Mitchell is, and I think the combine showed that. But Mitchell, there's just a lot that I haven't seen. And I don't think he didn't have a disaster game against Ohio State in 2022, but he didn't have like a great game either. Like, guys
people made it out that he had some crazy performance against Ohio State.
He really did. Like, and the thing is, like, the Ohio State guys were making tough catches on him. Like, JSN had a comeback on the sideline where he was there, but it was just a perfect throw and catch, and Marvin Harrison's touchdown was the same thing. So, like, but then it's like, okay, I don't want the note on my corner be like, okay, he got dunked on and allowed these touchdowns, but he was close. It's like, that's not a disaster or anything, but it's not like he went up against Ohio State and like looked great to me. And same thing versus Illinois this year. It's like, he looked fine. Like, he didn't have any kind of terrible game or anything like that, but it's not like against Illinois he looked quite as special as he did versus all the MAC. It's not like it fully translated and he had his best game or anything like that. So Mitchell, right. I think it's just I just think, like, I see him in the corner one, like top 10 conversations. I just think that's a huge jump from the MAC. I think I think later in the first, that's a little bit safer for me. He's a first round athlete. He's done great in the pre-draft process at the Senior Bowl and everything. He's done what he needs to do to be a first round pick. His tape is good, but man, people start talking about him as corner one over Kool-Aid, who's done it, and Nate, he's also such a great athlete, and he's done it. Like I just cannot get there quite with Mitchell, although I do like him.
I think that's very. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the reason why Kool-Aid has fallen so far is just like what you guys say about the whole, you can't see him because they don't throw it to him. You just get more enamored with the guy that you see, and I think that's probably the same thing for Mitchell. If he just pops up more, it's just gonna make him more exciting for people to watch and root for. So that's probably what it is more, because people used to love Kool-Aid. Last year, everyone was like Kool-Aid's corner one. 2 years ago, same thing. So I don't know. He was consensus corner one for a while, and then all of a sudden, all these other guys start popping up.
Yeah, and he had a good season and everything. It's like maybe
you just don't pop up on camera.
Yeah, you don't pop up on camera, and I think like people get enamored with the upside of the other guys, and it's like I think Kool-Aid, again, like the long speed, but
that's the thing.
I just don't know if Mitchell passed him. Just don't know.
An amazing athlete at corner who gets beat a little bit, it's just going to show, like, you're going to be seeing him a little bit more than when you have a real lockdown corner. You forget entirely that he's even playing,
and that's the best corner. If you forget he's corner.
So
and Surtain had a lot of similar concerns. I feel like when he was coming out, people were like, "Oh, his technique is great. He's got size, like he's got physicality and all that." But the longs can people take him deep?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, well, this guy's supposed to be, and Kool-Aid, like before this season, like top 10 pick, felt like it was easy money for him, right? And then somebody in some draft room somewhere asked themselves the question: am I going to take a cornerback in the top 10 with long speed concerns? No, not when there's 1,000 guys out here running, 4.2s or whatever. And I feel like he started to slip down boards largely because of that. But I think if you're getting it done without the long speed, like I agree that, the athleticism stuff matters. And I've said, I like the RAS score. And when they say, like 90% of all Pro Bowlers are like an 8 or better or a 5 or better or whatever, like I believe it. Like, yep, that's true. But it's not the end all be all. Like, you can be a great
Kool-Aid
player
probably is going to have a green RAS score too.
Oh yeah, and he's going. Yeah, exactly. Not everybody needs to be like a 9.99 or like a 9.8 to be a great player. Like, there's just more to it than that. A lot more to it than that.
And we had these conversations with Latu too, right? Like Latu is just winning.
Who had a 9.19 RAS score, and we're talking about his athletic.
Turner is way more athletic, and it's like,
Turner's like a
why wasn't he better? At some point, and it's like I don't always agree with that. There's a balance, as with most things. There's a balance where it's like I'll say that, but then somebody will say that about like a quarterback prospect who's kind of raw, and I get mad. They'll be like, "Oh, he's not going to be Josh Allen," and we're like, "No, he will be," but
Well, the quarterbacks are different because I don't know, like Caleb's a superstar athlete, but he's also like just the best at all the quarterback things too.
Right. It's like
I don't know. It comes down to the tape, really. I mean, that's with Richardson. Like, if he sucked and had a great RAS score, then I would not like him. And but he looked good to me on film, and he had a good RAS score, so I like him. And that's kind of how it is. It's like it goes back to the film, and
I was talking to a coworker about the quarterbacks, and he was like, "You know what my hot take is?" I'm like, "What?" And he's like,
"Coworker hot takes in there."
Coworker hot take. He's like, "I think Caleb Williams is going to be horrible," and I'm like, "Shocker."
Yeah, not shocking.
And then he's like, "Yeah, and I don't love Richardson either," and I'm like, "Yeah." Tracks. I'm like, I love both those guys. I think they're both awesome. I think they're both fantastic.
Yeah, someone brings up like the Richardson completion percentage in person. You're like, yeah. It's like, well, especially in like, how come he played 1 year and then he gets to be 4th overall? It's like, I know. He's that of an athlete, though.
Yeah, he's great, man. Have you seen him avoid sacks though?
Yeah,
we gotta get like pocket film. We gotta start having clips like on your phone ready to go.
Sometimes when it's like, some random person, you don't want to go like full analyst mode and just be like,
it's just like you'd have to be like such like a douchebag to be like, no, but his pressure to sack rate was only 12% in college. That's amazing. And it translates so well.
Did you turn on the film versus Georgia, dude? He was stepping up in the pocket. It's like you can kind of insinuate it, but it's like you just gotta let it go. And these coworkers are like, same thing with some. I worked at a movie theater, and like the coworker movie taste will always be like burned into my memory. Like one of my coworkers' favorite movies of all time was Ready Player One. It's like I'm like,
that's a fun movie. I like Ready Player One.
Well, your top 10 list, Blaiden, is horrific. I mean, you have coworker movie. You are a coworker, I guess.
What's wrong with my movie? What's wrong with my favorite movies?
Is Tom and Jerry the movie? Like you have Ender's Game in like your top 5 ever.
Ender's Game is a good movie. I like it. It's not as good as the book. The book is better, but that's just because
it's a bad movie adaptation, and you have it in your top 5 ever. So like,
no, I didn't have a top 5. It was in the top 10. But
I don't care. You're not doing anything.
I'm not beating the allegations.
What else did you have? It was like the SpongeBob movie, I think.
I did not have the SpongeBob movie. Be so fucking serious, Theo.
It was something on that caliber. I know.
Hold on. I will pull it up right now. So it's Revenge of the Sith is number 1. Obviously, greatest movie ever.
It's not, but
we've got Batman Begins on there. Best Batman movie. We've got Rocket Man, which is the Elton John movie.
The musical about Elton John, yes.
It's the Elton John movie. It's a good movie. It's better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
It is. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
The Greatest Showman.
Another like fine feel good movie.
People fun. Love it, man. It's a great
Coworkers
movie.
Love it.
Oh my god!
Every theater kid.
Logan, the X-Men.
It's a top tier superhero movie. I do like.
Remember the Titans, the football movie. Rocky IV. And what else? The Dark Knight. The third Matrix movie's in there.
The third one. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like,
it's the best one.
You know what? I don't know.
What a tangent. How did we get here? This is the real question.
We were talking about Terrion Arnold, and we were talking about coworker. I don't know. We were talking about athleticism, and then I don't know. We went to Caleb.
Did we get to corner 4 yet? Did that happen?
That was my 3 and 4.
Let's go through it before we get to 5. So I have Wiggins, Kool-Aid, Arnold, and then Mitchell at this point.
Yes. I've got Mitchell and then Arnold.
And then
I've got DeJean, Wiggins, Kool-Aid, Arnold, and then Mitchell will wrap it up for me at 5.
Okay, you have 5. My 5 is Kamari Lassiter, who I like. And he could be unseated as I watched.
Liked him.
Yeah, I like him. He's not a crazy athlete either. Like he's a little small, and I don't think like he's moving around like. Oh
the number of not crazy athletes that you have over Cooper DeJean is starting to hurt.
But he's
not
concerning to me like DeJean is. DeJean gets into the concerning character. Like these guys don't just check every box, I guess. But I like the calmness of Lassiter. I think that he's crazy good at the catch point, like getting his head around and like contesting things at the last second. I think he plays with an inherent calmness and zen out there is what I saw. And just his assignment, he's very assignment sound and he's a good enough athlete. And I really like what he did at the catch point. I'll have to watch more corners, honestly, for this top 5 corners episode. I kind of just watched like the top 5, which includes DeJean, and then didn't like DeJean enough, so I went with the other guy that I like, Lassiter. So we'll see about Rakestraw, and see if there's any like sleepers behind them. Like maybe this could be a year where I have someone crazy at number 5 eventually, like a Galen
awesome.
Carson or something fucking bonkers. But we'll see at this point. I just like Lassiter, and I'm somewhat familiar with him. And as of right now, he's my 5. I'm
gonna change up my order.
Okay.
I think I'm Cooper at 4, Arnold at 5. I don't keep everything else the same.
Makes me a little happier.
I agree, but I think when Cooper does have things in front of him, he's pretty crazy. And like we're talking about Arnold, who has some similar, like he needs to be close to the line of scrimmage limitations. And it's not physical with him, I guess. So maybe you feel like he could just get better, but like it's more likely that he doesn't, and it is a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas with DeJean, at least I feel like if that doesn't work out, I might just move him to safety. I might have him in the slot. It's like, yeah, and it's kind of a tweener thing, and you might have to figure it out. And who really knows exactly what he's going to do? It's almost like, dude, could you be like 2 inches taller and then like weigh like 40 more pounds? That'd be really dope. But I still think I think there's a little bit more there. I think it's a close one though.
Yeah. Yes. I understand what you're saying. The versatility of DeJean, I could be underrating it. Like he might be able to fit somewhere else. I wish Iowa didn't use him strictly as a boundary corner, so I could see a little bit more. But
and DeJean can press as well. Like he's incredibly good with that.
He's
I think he's good with jamming.
We just didn't see it a lot. We just didn't see him line up in a lot of press man. So it's hard to get a good read on it. I think he had less than 200 press snaps.
Yeah, I think that if he can get hands on you again in a press coverage situation, I think the athleticism things can show up if he doesn't get hands on you and just has to like fully use his lower body. But there were some very nice jams and stuff that I saw. And again, I think that he is very physical. So, but anyway.
All right. What are your thoughts on Kalen King? This is the real question.
I saw a baller Kalen King rep when I was watching somebody else, and I was like, that's the first one I've seen. He like flipped his hips and like broke up a pass on like 4th down in like a gotta have it situation. He was like, he absolutely went crazy on one rep, and I'm like, finally the good Kalen King film. But
so he's not a lot of 1 for 200.
When we tried to watch him versus Marv, and then every rep at the Senior Bowl, and then he had a bad combine. It's like the hits were dwindling with Kalen King, unfortunately.
It really. I swear to God, he was such a baller when he was good, though. I didn't really bother to go back and like watch a lot of his last year because I know that he was bad. I saw him live against Ohio State. That didn't go well. We watched some of his, like you said, his Senior Bowl stuff. That didn't go well. It's like, okay. And then he ran like horrifically at the combine or something.
Yeah, he ran like a 4.6, I think.
I have no idea. I'd love to know what happened. Was it an injury?
I feel like sometimes this happened with Sean Wade a couple of years ago, where it's like I felt like I saw him in first round.
Sean Wade was never good, man. He got cooked by Rondale Moore as a freshman and never recovered.
Fair enough, maybe.
Rondale Moore absolutely did fucking cook that game. I thought he was the greatest player ever.
That was crazy. I remember watching that one on All 22 my first year, really looking into it. And I remember watching Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore had he like trucked Chase Young at some point. He was dude. It was the most. It was kind of a crazy game. He looked like prime Steve Smith in that one.
Yeah, man. He used to be crazy.
And he got traded for Desmond Ridder.
I was going to make it goes to show level of dude. And the Cardinals said, "Give me Ridder." That's an easy one. They said.
He will be replacing Kyler Murray.
I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I think that's a good
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you all so much for tuning into this cornerback episode. Lots of stuff coming your way. Getting closer to the draft. Had some more live stream stuff. Another episode coming next week. But until then, as always, we will catch you on the flippity flop.
You guys think about the $1